Have you ever wondered what happens to your home when you pass away? Now, I know this is something that no one likes to talk about, but it's one of those things that can get really ugly if you don't do some planning. So in this video, I'll go over your options so you can decide if putting your home in a trust would be a good idea. Hi, my name is Casey and I'm a local realtor here in Corona. And as a real estate agent, one thing I help people with is selling a home after someone passes away. Now this is always a very tough time for families, but it can get even worse if there wasn't some planning done beforehand. So let me show you what I mean. But first, let me point out, I'm not an attorney or a financial planner, and you should always speak with an attorney when you're getting legal advice. But from a real estate perspective, this is what I see when helping clients in this situation. And typically, we see three different scenarios. The person that passed away either had a will, they had a trust, or they had neither one. So let's start with what happens if a person doesn't have a will or a trust. And in that case, it's pretty simple. The property goes into probate. Now, probate is a legal process that takes place after someone passes away. And this process requires that the court step in and help decide what to do with a person's property and assets and who they should go to. And one of the first things the court will do is assign a person to help. And this person is referred to as the executor or the administrator. The executor helps identify the person's assets, their outstanding bills, and who the assets should go to. And this information is given to the court for review. And once it's been approved by the court, the debts are paid off and the remaining assets are distributed to the beneficiaries. But it's important to remember that before any assets can be distributed, they must be approved by the court. And if the plan is to sell the home and divide the profits, it can't be sold without the approval of the court. And unfortunately, this process does take time. It's not uncommon for the probate process to take months. And in complicated or contested cases, it can take years to resolve. And it can be expensive too. Court costs, legal fees, out-of-pocket expenses, and estate taxes can eat up a huge portion of a person's assets. And because of this, most people try their best to avoid probate. Now, the second option we see is when the person that passes away had taken the time to prepare a will. And typically people use a will to document how they'd like their belongings distributed after their passing. But what a lot of people don't realize is that with a will, the process is almost exactly the same. So even with a will, the home will have to go through the probate process. Now the advantages here is that the court will have a will which has written instructions on how the person wanted their belongings distributed. So this does help, but it's still going to take time. The court first has to confirm that the will is valid, and once this is confirmed, they'll assign an executor, and the process continues like we just explained. But just like without a will, a home can't be sold until we have approval from the court. And keep in mind, all of the expenses from the home still have to be paid. And expenses like property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, utilities, and upkeep all have to be paid. And they can't be paid with the money from the person's estate unless it's been approved by the court. And in many cases, we see family members challenge the validity of the will or the details of how the assets are to be distributed. And you might be surprised at how often this happens. There always seems to be someone that feels like they deserve more than someone else. And with the home value so high here in California, the amount of money involved can be a lot. And sadly, I've seen families completely destroyed over these disputes. And in the end, it's not uncommon for a large portion of a person's assets to end up going to attorneys and legal expenses by the time everything is finally resolved. Now, having a will is obviously better than not having one, and it can help speed up the process. But remember, the probate process can still be very time-consuming, and you still have to deal with the court fees, legal fees, out-of-pocket expenses, and estate taxes. And in the final situation we see is when a person passes away had set up a trust. Now, a trust is a form of estate planning that allows you to control your assets, including your money and your property, while you're still alive. It allows you to decide how it will be distributed when you pass away. And one of the biggest advantages of having a trust is it allows you to avoid the probate process. And because your assets are held in the trust, they don't have to be reviewed or approved by a court, so the executor can distribute them immediately. And if the plan is to sell your home and divide the profits, your executor can do this right away and doesn't have to wait for a court to approve it. Now this can save your beneficiaries thousands of dollars in court costs, legal expenses, and estate taxes. There are some additional benefits of having a trust, but for most people, it really comes down to three simple things. One, you can avoid the probate process. Two, it makes it much easier to distribute your assets after your passing. And three, it can help avoid or at least minimize the large tax obligations to your beneficiaries. So for these reasons, most financial experts recommend setting up a trust if you own a home. It really can reduce the amount of stress on your family and can greatly reduce the amount of money lost to court costs and estate taxes. Now, I know this was a quick overview of the process, but I hope you found it helpful because with a little bit of planning, you can make it much easier on your family after your passing. So if you found any value in this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like and the subscribe buttons below. It really does help my channel.